got a chance to do one thing that every team in the country can't do. We got a chance to step up, man. We got a chance to step on the ledge, you know what I mean? And to me, I think it's a free fall. To be elite, you got to take a free fall. That means you can't be afraid to go to the edge. And coach said, jump. You said, how far, coach? Where you want me to go? Every guy got a chance to do that today. If you're elite, grab somebody today. Take it with you. There's no more average in this program. There's no more average in this program.
The Ohio State Buckeyes coming off of 3 straight years in which they did not beat their arch rival Michigan. Does that put Ryan Day on the hot seat? Hi, everybody. I am Colin Bashingle, your host here at Bash's College Football Show. You can find me on TikTok, Bash's CFP Show, if you can just type it in, or you can find the link in the description. You will also see the links to my X and my Twitch. And I don't mean my X, I mean my X, like Twitter, you know. Anyway, all jokes aside, kind of cringy right there, but you know what? I'll take the cringe jokes all day. We are going to talk about the Ohio State Buckeyes today, one of the most exciting rosters to preview and what the odds-on favorite to win the national championship, I believe. So let's get into the Ohio State breakdown as they bring in Chip Kelly on offense, and we'll break down what that looks like a little bit later. But Chip Kelly comes in as the offensive coordinator, and he's going to be without a Marvin Harrison Jr., which a lot of people look at as a generational talent at the wide receiver position for the Ohio State Buckeyes, and Cade Stover, a solid tight end for them. Running back Mayan Williams left for the NFL draft too when he tore his ACL, and apparently nobody really knew about it. Around the media is what I mean. Obviously, Ohio State knew about it. Matthew Jones, an interior offensive lineman, longtime player. He's going to be gone. On the defensive side, Michael Hall Jr. and then the 2 linebackers, Tommy Eichenberg, Steele Chambers, and the safety, Josh Proctor. They're going to be off to the next level. What they lost in the transfer portal was a lot more, though, as far as just the list of players. And a lot of really talented young players looking to go make an impact somewhere else. Kyle McCord, you know, I think he's really talented. I personally do. I think he wasn't ready and fit for the Ohio State offense. Not ready as far as I just don't think he was really like the guy to take over the Ohio State starting quarterback role, because that guy is a celebrity. And I think that celebrity kind of intimidated him a little bit. And I think this was a mutual parting of ways, and Kyle McCord, you know, saying his piece and being pretty respectful about it. He basically made it sound like that. Chip Trayanum, who scored the game-winning touchdown against Notre Dame last year, if you remember correctly, he's off and gone to Kentucky, which is going to be an interesting preview themselves when we get there. Noah Rogers, a big-time wide receiver recruit that left for NC State. A lot of you guys are going to be like, well, how big can he be if he went to NC State? Well, NC State plays second. He's a kid from Raleigh, and he was a national recruit who was like an NC State fan. He went to Ohio State because of development, and now he's going to NC State, which wasn't surprising by the time he entered the portal. Julian Fleming off to Penn State is a notable one. Remember, he was ESPN's #1 overall recruit in the 2020 class, Jackson Smith and Jigba's class. So he's going to be a 5th-year guy that really has something to prove right here. Battled injuries early on, which stunted his development, but when he has been on the field the last 2 years, he really hadn't developed that much. And that's the big criticism you have for Julian Fleming. Other guys that transferred out that I want to highlight, Omari Abor going off to SMU, I think is a really talented kid who flashed. Reed Carrico, I think, at linebacker, could have potentially tried to nudge his way onto the field at Ohio State, but I think he's got a better opportunity at West Virginia. Jair Brown at LSU, I think he's going to have to make a big impact for that secondary that had struggled last year and is looking very thin this year. Brian Turner and Cam Martinez going out to Boston College. I previewed Boston College in the first video if you want to check it out. Kai Stokes, who lit up the spring game a couple years ago, off to Cincinnati along with a couple other players. And Jesse Mirko off to Vanderbilt, the starting punter, which he was a really good punter for Ohio State. Interesting move right there. But you can't talk about the transfer portal and not talk about what they added. And though it wasn't that many players, you gotta at least bring it up because there's a lot of really talented kids going in. You start with Will Howard, right? Who's a 6-year guy, I'm pretty sure. Pretty talented and mobile, but overall, there's going to be a lot of mystery with what he's going to look like with the weapons around him. And a lot of people are thinking that he's going to be the guy. I still do think it's a battle, don't get me wrong, but I'd be hard pressed to say that right now, sitting here, I'm expecting Will Howard to start day one. I wouldn't be surprised necessarily if Devin Brown started, but let's just say I've had my Devin Brown kind of, I think that he's the guy. It hasn't worked out yet. Let's just put it that way. So I'm going to wait for it to work out. Then Julian Sain is a younger quarterback that's going to come and compete for the future. You know, guys like Tavian St. Clair, who's a 2025 kid, Aaron Nolan 2024, and Lincoln Keenels in 2023. Those guys are definitely going to have some added competition with a talented kid like this. Running back Quinshon Judkins was probably the best running back the last 2 years in the SEC and one of the best in America. That was a big-time ad to pair him with Travion Henderson in the backfield. Will Kazmarek coming in from Ohio definitely adds depth to the tight end position, which is a big mystery there. Interior offensive lineman, much maligned center at Seth McLaughlin from Alabama, who had the low snaps. We'll see what happens there because Ryan Day said some interesting stuff about Seth McLaughlin not being the problem at Alabama. I'm not saying he wasn't, though. Like, I have no idea what the problem was. All I know is a change of scenery sometimes is exactly what you need. And finally, you get Caleb Downs. And a late ad, by the way, was Keenan Nelson Jr. from South Carolina. But Caleb Downs, number one player in the portal, absolute freak show as a freshman last year. It took a little bit of a wake-up call, but he got that wake-up call and he took it. Guys returning that definitely could have gone to the NFL draft, right? Travion Henderson at running back is back. Mecca Buka, along with the young players and Brandon Ennis and Carnell Tate trying to raise the stakes, and the true freshman coming in, Jeremiah Smith. Then you get guys like Josh Simmons and Josh Fryer coming back, who are tackles that both need to improve at different things, right? Josh Simmons needs to commit less penalties. Josh Fryer needs to get more athletic. That's just the truth right there. Cold, hard truth. Donovan Jackson, absolute freak show guard. I'm really excited that he decided to come back because he could have went to the NFL. Center Carson Hensman, he's probably not going to start. It is what it is. He was kind of in the doghouse for the bowl game. Enoch Vamahi, who transferred out to Washington, who I didn't even mention, he started in the bowl game, and Carson Hensman was in the doghouse. Enoch started at guard, and Matthew Jones started at center in the bowl game. Then on the defensive side, though, that defensive line returns a lot. Ty Hamilton, Tyleik Williams, both back on the interior. The edge guys, Jack Sawyer, JT Tuimoloau, Kenyatta Jackson, amongst others. They're all back. They're kind of missing the holes at linebacker, like Cody Simon is back. You can't mention the linebacker position without bringing up those younger players trying to battle for a spot in Cody Simon and Gabe Powers. But Sonny Styles, who played safety last year, and a lot of people really know who he was because he was really good, specifically in the box, he's moving to linebacker. So we'll see how that project works. But I think Cody Simon, Sonny Styles, probably going to be your starting two, with that third one being CJ Hicks and Gabe Powers kind of in the doghouse right there. Cornerbacks, Denzel Burke, Davison Benosin, and Jordan Hancock all coming back. Jermaine Matthews, freak show freshman when he hit the field. He's coming back. I can't wait to see what Calvin Simpson-Hunt looks like too. This is maybe the best secondary in America, top to bottom. And I think that a lot of people aren't really giving them the credit they deserve. But if you really think about it, Denzel Burke, first-round type of talent at corner. Jordan Hancock, one of the best nickel corners I see. I don't care what Michigan fans say. Jordan Hancock is a better cornerback, a nickelback, than Mike Sainristil was last year. Mike Sainristil made big plays and big moments, but he also got burnt at points last year out of the slot. Jordan Hancock is maybe the unsung hero of this defense, who's an absolute freak show out of that nickel position. And I already brought up Sonny Styles there. Probably replacing at safety would be like Malik Hartford, who I think is definitely going to challenge for some playing time. And then Lathan Ransom coming back off of injury again. He's had a lot of bad injury luck. He got hurt in the right before the Michigan game, I believe, and missed some time. Malik Hartford was out there and had a notable play where he let Roman Wilson get a touchdown essentially over him. But overall, this Ohio State team, just like any other year, looks pretty normal, talented, very talented. But are they actually going to be able to get over that hump? We're going to talk about the schedule right now. Let's go straight into it. Yeah, I know the out-of-conference sucks. Akron and Western Michigan, then they get a bye, and then Marshall. They win all 3 of these games, no problem. Akron is terrible. Western Michigan's been down for a couple of years. And Marshall, as much as I do think Charles Huff is a good coach, and as much as I do think Marshall has a lot of pride in their tradition, they have not been that good the last couple of years. They beat Notre Dame 2 years ago. I know that. I'm very aware. But outside of that, really, they have had nothing to write home about. And I think it's, really joining a tougher conference in the Sun Belt has kind of ate at them a little bit. So I think Ohio State has no problem winning these games. The out-of-conference is caused essentially by Washington joining the Big Ten. That's not an excuse, though, because we saw in the Arizona preview that Arizona and Kansas State are playing an out-of-conference game despite the fact that they're both conference teams. I think they could have worked with the Big Ten and tried to get a game here, especially because of Ohio State's out-of-conference schedule. But I think their conference schedule is relatively tough. You get at Michigan State and Iowa. I think they win both those games. Michigan State's going to be a little bit of a mystery on what they look like. Aiden Giles probably going to start at quarterback there with Jonathan Smith's first year up there. I think it's a rebuild. I think it's going to take a year or two for Jonathan Smith to really get things rolling up there in East Lansing. Iowa, I think, is going to be a win because I think though their offense might be a tick better, I think their defense will be a tick worse. But don't get me wrong, their defense is still going to be really good. Their offense is still probably going to be pathetic. I think they will have no business going into Columbus and winning that game. Before Ohio State has to travel across the country in October to play a tough game at Oregon. Now, we did see Washington go into Oregon and win last year. It's not an impossible place to go and win. But with the travel and with how talented Oregon is, and I really think this defense at Oregon is improved from a year ago, the offense might be just about the same, if not maybe a little bit worse than they were last year. But for the most part, they're going to be really productive. I think Ohio State loses this game. I think that Oregon is a better team. Now, I saw a take that Oregon wins by 2 or more scores. I think that this game's down to the wire, and I'm giving the edge to the home team. I think that these are the 2 best teams in the conference in the preseason. I think everybody kind of shares that opinion. Nebraska off of a bye. The storyline of Dylan Raiola is very interesting here, but Nebraska is a year away. Mark my words, too. It's a year away. I know what everybody's going to say. Well, yeah, Matt Rule always does this. Yeah, he does. Like, you don't need to be sarcastic about it or anything like that. It's going to take 3 years for him at any stop, and it's looking like it's going to be that 3rd year yet again, just like it was at Baylor and just like it was at Temple. And I think he's winning this football or losing this football game, pardon me, but winning overall when it comes to building the program, and I think that they're going to be a very competitive team this year. The idea is, too, that they're going to be undefeated going into this game. We'll talk about Nebraska next week. I think there's a chance for it. We'll see if that happens, at least from my point of view. At Penn State, I think they win this game. It's probably not going to be the whiteout. If it is, even more exciting, a little bit less of a chance for Ohio State to win. But no matter what, I do think Ohio State's going to win. Penn State, to me, needs to prove that they can throw the ball. Not only if Drew Aller is good enough to do it, but if their wide receiver core is going to be good enough to get open for him in the first place. They do have the 2 best running backs, or the best running back duo in the Big Ten, probably outside of Columbus, though. Like, that debate is very good between Katron Allen and Nick Singleton versus Travion Anderson and Quinshon Judkins. But you comment down below which duo is better. I'm kind of thinking that Quinshon Judkins and Travion Anderson are, because Travion Anderson has top 3 running back type of talent, and Quinshon Judkins has top 3 running back production. So overall, I think the better duo is in Columbus. So even what Penn State does best on offense, Ohio State does maybe even a little better. We'll see if that turns out to be the case. I think Ohio State wins that game. I am a little bit interested to see what Andy Kotelnicki has for Penn State's offense this upcoming year. Purdue, I think that's a win. Spoiler maker this, spoiler maker that. The last 2 times Purdue has played Ohio State, they've allowed an average of 52.5 points per game the last 2 times and ran off the field both times. And one of the times they were pretty good with Aiden O'Connell and a pretty solid squad, Jeff Brahms, last year. So I think Ohio State wins that game no problem this year. Playing Northwestern and Wrigley Field, I think it's really, really cool that they're going to be playing this game there, and I think Ohio State should have no problem winning that game. Indiana, I think, again, though Kurt Cignetti is a really good coach coming in from James Madison, it's a rebuild. That talent gap is massive between Indiana and Ohio State. And then finally, Michigan. I think Ohio State does get over the hump. They are more built now to beat Michigan than they were 2 years ago. And even though Ohio State was a worse team last year overall than they were the last probably 2 years ago. Let's take that 2022 team, the one that went toe-to-toe with Georgia. That team was better than last year's team. I think everybody can generally agree. But last year's team was more built to play tough with Michigan. And that's exactly what they did. And I think they're still built. They return all those pieces that built that in the first place. They're still built to compete with Michigan. Michigan's going to drop off offensively. I think their defense is still going to be really, really good. But we'll see if there might be a slight drop off there. Coaching staff turnover. A lot of guys really in their first major positions as a coordinator and head coach. I'm not one of those dudes. And if you guys didn't know, I am an Ohio State fan. If I haven't made that obvious, I picked Michigan to win last year. So don't, in the preseason I did. So don't come at me being like, blah, blah, blah. Ohio State fans always say this. That's not me. You got the wrong channel. You got the wrong guy. I just think Ohio State's going to be a better team this year. They're going to be at home, and this is a must win for Ryan Day. So comment down below. If Ryan Day loses to Michigan, will Ohio State fire him? And I do think, too, last thing I'm going to say about this Ohio State team, as they go 11-1, 8-1 in conference play, which probably will be enough to make the Big Ten championship. But my quick question here is this. Do you think that Chip Kelly's addition is going to help this run game out? Because though they've had the talent, the run game hasn't been the most productive run game in the world. That's my question. If you're an Ohio State fan, comment down below. But with that being said, 11-1, 8-1, didn't pick them to go 12-0. I think they will probably lose a game. If I had to pick it, it'd be one of those two between Oregon and Penn State. I'd be a little bit surprised if they go 10-2, but this team is like a 95% lock for the 12-team playoff. And it is what it is. I think that this is definitely going to be an interesting year to see how the 12-team playoff works out. See if Ryan Day can win and stack big games in a row. You get Michigan, the Big Ten championship, 3 or 4 playoff games. That's what it's going to take for Ohio State to win the national championship. We'll see if they can do that. But for next time, I am Colin Mashing Eagle. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you next time.